Good evening to each of you, my brothers and sisters in Christ. It is 6 p.m. on Wednesday, and that means it's time for Bible study. My name is Dwayne Hawkins. I'm the pastor of the Antioch Baptist Church in Omaha, Nebraska, and we are live, as we always are, for Wednesday Bible study. I was glad when they said unto me, "Let us go into the house of the Lord." It is time for us to engage in our weekly study. And before we do so, as always, not only do I want to welcome you, but I want to invite you to let us know that you are present. Most likely place is the Facebook live stream. Come on in, let us know that you're here. Say good evening to us in the chat and check in and let us know what your color is on today. I'll go ahead and start off. I am green today, doing well. No complaints. In a very calm state, focused, ready to go on our midweek Bible study. Multiple ways that you can join us via the live stream. Most popular way is through our Facebook Antioch Omaha, but you can also join us via YouTube, Antioch Baptist Church, Omaha, Nebraska. You can join us also through our Twitter. You can find us at our Twitter, and that is, let me see if I can find out what our Twitter handle is. I make reference to it every week, but let me tell you exactly where those are so that you can know how to join us. It is, the YouTube is Antioch Baptist Church, Omaha, Nebraska. That's where you can find us via YouTube, Antioch Baptist Church, Omaha, Nebraska. However, if you want to join us via Twitter, you can find us. Oh, wait a minute. My phone is doing, I don't know, it's doing an install. But you can join us Facebook, you can join us YouTube, Antioch Baptist Church, Omaha, Nebraska. You can join us Twitter. You can join us through the website. We are antiochomaha.org, or you can join us via Boxcast TV, and that is through your Roku device, your Amazon Fire, or your Apple TV. You can just simply go to those and add channel. And when you add channel, you'll put in Boxcast, Boxcast. And then when you put in Boxcast, it'll prompt you to indicate what organization. And there you'll put in Antioch. And you'll see the church logo, and you can join us that way as well. So there are multiple ways that you can join us through Boxcast. That's your Roku, your Amazon Fire, or your Apple TV. The website, we are antiochomaha.org, and also through Facebook, Antioch Omaha, YouTube, Antioch Baptist Church, Omaha, Nebraska, and also through the Twitter. You can find us there as well. So again, good evening to each and every one of you. I want to encourage you to let us know that you're here And just check in. Let me know what your color is on today, that we can just take a moment just to check in to see how you are doing on this evening. And then after that, I think I've got maybe one announcement, and then we'll get started with our lesson on this evening. I'm trying to get to our. Well, I tell you, when you're trying to find something, sometimes it's not as easy as you would like it to be. And so I'm trying to find the exact name of Twitter. I think it's We Are Antioch. Yes, we are live right now. It is at Antioch Omaha on Twitter. At Antioch Omaha on Twitter. Antioch Baptist Church on YouTube. Antioch Omaha on Facebook. And they are all up and running. And so that's pretty exciting. So let us know that you are here. And let me know what your color is. And we've got a brief announcement. Then I'll pray. Then we'll get started with our lesson on this evening. So I hope everyone's doing well. I'm doing well. My color is green on today. There the people are. Alma, good evening. Good to have you with us on this evening. Hope your day is going well. You are green. Lakana, good evening. You and Mother are here. Good evening to the both of you. Pray that all is well. Aunt Johnny is watching green. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Good evening to all of the peoples. And thank you for joining us on this evening. I'm always so excited when my brothers and sisters have joined in with me and that I am not by myself. And so that is always a good thing. So I'm glad that you are with me and glad that Lakana and Mother are green. Alma is green, blue, but focused. Green, blue, but focused. And we are grateful for that. To everyone else, good evening to you. Let us know that you're here. Looks like there are a few more people that are joining us that have not chimed in on the chat. I want to greet you as well and let you know that we appreciate your presence. I pray that all is well with each and every one of you. Now, in terms of an announcement, this coming Sunday is our Jail and Prison Sunday. We have those 3 times a year at the Antioch Baptist Church, and we invite the presence of Chaplain Merlin Klaus with us as a representative of the Good News Jail and Prison Ministry. We support them with our prayers. We support them with our finances. We've supported them in the past with different ways to serve and volunteer. And so we're excited to be a partner with the Good News Jail and Prison Ministry. We encourage you to pray. We encourage you to give. If you're available, we encourage you to volunteer. There's a link on the church website, weareantiochomaha.org, and there's a link directly to Good News Jail and Prison Ministry. If you would like to be able to support them in your giving, you can do so as well. So that's this coming Sunday during the morning worship. Chaplain Klaus will give us an update, and then he will preach the morning sermon for us. And I said there was one, but there's actually a couple of more brief announcements. This coming Saturday, Antioch will be serving at the Open Door Mission, and that is on the east side of town, down by the airport. And I believe the time is 10 a.m. Let me check the time to make sure that I give you the correct time so you will know. As always, if you have any questions or would like to join us, we would love to see your presence alongside with us as we serve. This coming Saturday, 10:30 a.m., the women's ministry of the Antioch Baptist Church is sponsoring this particular service event. And you are more than welcome to join in at the Open Door Mission this coming Saturday at 10:30. The uniform is white tops, black bottoms. White tops and black bottoms. Feel free to call the church, and we'll put you in contact with the event coordinator. Again, that's this Saturday, 10:30 a.m. at the Open Door Mission. Our women's ministry is the sponsoring organization, a sponsoring ministry for this particular service event. So those are our announcements. Allow me to thank everyone who joined with me in Antioch in service this past Sunday afternoon at the Prince of Peace Baptist Church at 3:30. I want to thank each and every one of you who joined us over there as we helped to thank the Lord and celebrate for 35 years of ministry at the Prince of Peace Baptist Church, currently pastored by Pastor Fred Dixon Jr. All right, those are our announcements. Looks like we've got a couple more people on the Zoom. Good evening, Reverend Nelson. Good evening, First Lady. Pray that all is well with each of you. Let us know what your color is. And after we check in with you, I think we'll be ready for our opening prayer and for our lesson.
Good evening. Good evening. I am green today.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you for allowing us to make it to another Wednesday evening. For my brothers and sisters and Christian friends who have joined us. It's always such a blessing, Lord, to spend time in their presence. And so I thank you for that privilege that you have granted us all on this evening. Thank you for leading us thus far through to the middle of the work week. And we are certainly grateful for your presence in our lives. Lord, we ask that you would continue to lead us and guide us as we go through our day-to-day activities, that we would do so with a conscious awareness of your presence in our lives, and that we would seize opportunity to be a witness to unto you through not only through our being, who we are, but also in our doing, how we engage with the world. So, Lord, as we engage and study one last time, we ask your presence to be with us. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. Reverend Nelson, good evening, Blue. a little sad. Life is lifing. Life is lifing. Reverend, join in. If you are sad, then that means we are sad. And so we will join in with you in that and praying God's presence in your life as you experience the sorrows of this world. Let me get our lesson on the screen. Let's see if I can do it right. Can you hear me? All right. Can you see the screen? I'm not quite sure what happened. The Zoom went down and then it popped back up. And so I had to reload the screen. Tonight is lesson 17. And if you've been tracking with us in your book, you'll realize that this is the last chapter in our book. Congratulations, team. We have made it to the final lesson in our study on empathy. I am so excited about that. It is a major milestone, 17 chapters. And so we did mostly one chapter a week. So we've been talking about empathy for several months, and we come down to the concluding lesson. And I pray that the time has been such a blessing. It has been such a blessing to me. I have grown as a person. I have grown as a leader as a result of our time, gaining a better understanding of what empathy is and what it is not. I'm just kind of reflecting on some of the earlier lessons when we talked about staying out of the mud hole, and that's on one extreme, and on the other extreme was sympathy, where that had the perspective of not really joining people emotionally, but feeling for them and sympathizing. And then the opposite extreme would be joining with them to the point that their struggles become ours, and then we over identify and we become one, and how empathy is in the proper balance. Just one of the many things that kind of stand out to me. So as we go into this last lesson, just do me a favor, chime in the chat, one or two things that have really made an impact upon you as we have gone through this journey of empathy. Tonight is a shorter lesson. Excuse me. Tonight is a shorter lesson, last chapter in the book. And chapter 17 is focused on the process of empathizing. and celebrate the results. Focus on the process of empathizing and celebrating the results. This is one of those tried and true lessons that we've engaged and talked about numerous times over the course of the past, I would say at least 4 or 5 years that we've been learning and growing in Christian caregiving. And that is focus on the process and leaving the results to God. And that is just one of those tried and true principles of Christian care as it applies specifically to the topic of empathy. First Lady said, definitely helped me to learn to listen and respond better. Thank you for sharing one of the takeaways from this course. I appreciate that. Keep them coming, guys. Just feel free to chime in on the chat some of your takeaways from the course. So yeah, we're focusing on the process of empathizing and celebrating the results. Opening in the book says these words: last week, my daughter called to talk about some of the pressures she was facing, and I focused on listening carefully, trying to understand, and empathizing as best I could. At the end of the call, she said, thanks, Dad. This was very helpful. But I have to ask, what's gotten into you? You were really listening for a change without telling me what to do. And that was nice. And so here you get another example of the impact of focusing on the process and how that process of empathizing has been a blessing, and it has changed people's approaches to how they care for the people that they love. Good evening, Alma. Alma says, the friendship allows me to update my life and let the past go, trusting in God. Wonderful, 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 wonderful. So it goes on to say, admittedly, I had to bite my tongue a few times because I was itching to jump in with advice. But I'm getting better. The more I practice my empathy, the more I find this stuff really works. How many times have we said that on a Wednesday night, gang? This stuff works. We put it into practice and we are learning. And the quote comes from this dad who is practicing empathy and realizing that that process, it sometimes takes time for it to be automatic. And so he talked about a few times wanting to bite his tongue, but learning to get better at the process. And I just like the last sentence: the more I practice empathy, the more I find this stuff really works. I just thought that was very encouraging to hear a real life quote for someone who, in some regards, is in the same situation as we are, learning new skills and practicing them and being encouraged about the process that is taking place. So the next thing that the author talks about in this chapter, excuse me, is this understanding that results are good, but beyond our direct control. So the reason that we focus on the process and celebrate the results is because even though the results are good, the results, the author says, are beyond our direct control. Very important truth for us to keep in mind in our Christian caregiving, particularly when it comes to the impact of the care that we provide other people. So let's talk about this for a minute. These are some of the results that we desire and hope for and are in fact good. We want the person to feel validated and accepted. These are godly motives or godly desires regarding the impact of the empathy that we show to other people. We want them to feel validated and accepted. We want them to feel cared for and understood. We want them to feel encouraged and more hopeful. We want them to have an emotional connection with us. We want them to know they're not alone. These are just a collection of some of the positive results that we hope for when it comes to the impact of the empathy that we give to others. Can you think of other positive results that we desire for the person that we're giving care to, for the person that we are empathizing with? If you can think of some more, just put them in the chat. And if you're on Zoom, you can unmute if you so desire. But these are a collection of some of the positive results that we desire to come from the empathy when we experience from other people's perspective, experience their feelings and express them back to them. We do that because we want them to feel validated and accepted. We want them to feel cared for and understood. We want them to feel encouraged and more hopeful. We want them to have an emotional connection with us. We want them to know they are not alone. We want them to experience the love of God. Ultimately, when we serve in that way from hearts of compassion, ultimately, we want other people to experience the love of God. Just like all the many ways that we have experienced the love of God in our life, we want that for others. And so these are just a collection of some of the positive results we desire when we empathize with other people. And all of these things are good. All of these things are positive. All of these things are godly. They're all worthy goals, excellent results to hope for. But we can't just make them happen. The author says, listen to this, we have no direct control over how another person feels. We can't make someone feel better, feel valued, feel understood, or feel anything else. Do you agree with the author, that we have no direct control over how another person feels. Even when we demonstrate empathy, we cannot directly, through our response, make anybody feel a certain way. And my question is, do you agree or disagree with that statement? Do you
Agree.
agree or disagree? Why do you agree?
Because we can't. I mean, we can't control how someone feels, just like no one else can control how we feel. Um, we can try our best, and I think before this class, many of us said that we would say things to attempt to change a person's feelings, like, oh, you shouldn't feel that way, or don't forget about this, or let's think about this instead, all those different kinds of things. But the truth is, we didn't really change anything. Um, Maybe made them more mad, but I don't think we can really control how someone feels.
Interesting thoughts. Thank you so much for sharing. Anybody else on the Zoom, or anyone else on Facebook Live, chime in. Do you believe that you can directly control another person's feelings?
I think I would have to agree with First Lady. I can't control nobody else's feelings. The best thing to do, I mean, I think we've been learning through this course, is to being able to validate other people's feelings, even if we might not agree with it, whether we agree or don't agree. It's second nature, or looking for different results. But one of the key elements, I mean, listening and receiving how they feel. Um, I mean, I think a lot of that is because we do not directly control somebody else's feelings. That's
Interesting thoughts. Interesting thoughts. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Reverend Nelson. So, um, First Lady, Reverend Nelson, both are in agreement with regard to this, that even the best empathizer in the world cannot make a person feel better. So, what happens when you focus on something that is out of your control? If you focus on the results of empathy and not the process of empathy, and the results are out of your control, what do you think can happen?
it.
Frustration and
Mhm.
disappointment.
It could cause
Frustration.
tension between the relationship with you and the other person, because um it could make them feel even some type of way towards you, if because your motives for everything is going to be result driven and not really concerned with helping them through the process of what they're experiencing.
Interesting. Interesting. Here's what the author says. I agree. I agree. The author says, in fact, fixating on an end result leads us down an unproductive path and typically does more harm than good. It typically does more harm than good. When we focus on the things that we cannot control and they do not happen, it can be more damaging than helpful. Lakana says, we provide the care, God provides the cure. That is so true, Lakana. Thank you for sharing. That is so true. But sometimes our focus is on the thing that is out of our control instead of the thing that is in our control. And so check this out. We might put pressure on the other person to feel better, or at least appear like they're feeling better. Anybody ever done that? Let me be the first to raise my hand. Focusing on the results of my caregiving and wanting the other person to receive my love in such a way that it produces the end result of them feeling better so that I can feel better about me, especially if I was the one that caused them to not feel so great in the first place. We can put pressure on the other person to feel better. Wow. That just sounds like a downward spiral, and you can't control it. And then you're pressuring them. And so now, on top of the original circumstance and the original feelings that they feel, now you got that plus this pressure that is placed upon the care receiver. And what if they want to feel better, but they actually don't? Sometimes people want to feel better about stuff, but they don't feel better. And then we're focusing on the results of them feeling better, and we may not intend to, but our actions may have the impact of pressuring them to feel better, and they want to feel better, and we're pressuring them to feel better, but their want to and our pressure doesn't make them feel better. Sometimes when we focus on results that we cannot control, we end up putting pressure on the other person to feel the way we want them to feel. Sometimes we might shift into fix-it mode. Watch out. Overstepping boundaries, trying to resolve every problem personally or tell the other person what to do. Anybody ever been a fix-it person or gone into fix-it mode? Let me be the first to raise my hand tonight. Fix-it mode, you know what fix-it mode sometimes feels like? Bossy. Sometimes fix-it mode just feels like bossiness. And bossiness just does not always feel like care. It just feels almost void of emotion at times. So when we focus on results, we might shift into fix-it mode, overstepping boundaries, trying to resolve every problem personally, or tell the other person what you need to do is. Reverend Nelson said, I'm raising both hands, been on both sides of that coin. I hear you, Reverend. Been on both sides of that coin. And so the problem with shifting into fix-it mode by focusing on results, the problem with that is you're not the fixer. That's the problem. The problem in shifting into fix-it mode is you are not the fixer. And not only are you not the fixer, but oftentimes you're not able to do it. Sometimes people can do a certain thing, but it's not their role to do it. In this case, not only are we not the fixer, but oftentimes we are unable to be the fixer on top of not being the fixer. And so we just complicate things. And then all of a sudden, care just flies out the window, even if care was the motivating factor for your fixedness, which sometimes come across like bossiness, and the motivation of care does not transmit into the modality of care oftentimes. So when we focus on results, we oftentimes make matters worse because we might become frustrated with ourselves or the other person if the situation doesn't work out. You ever want somebody to get better and they're not getting better? And frustration sets in, and you're either going to think less of yourself or you're going to start thinking less of somebody else. That frustration often ends up in devaluing self or other people. When we focus on results, we might become frustrated with ourselves or the other person if the situation doesn't work out. Conversely, what is harmful if what we do does work out and we focus on the results and the results happen? The opposite of frustrated is pride. We focus on results and then we take credit for the results, then pride can seep in. If we focus on results and we don't get results, then frustration can seep in. And that comes when there is a subtle devaluing of self or others. So focusing on results is just dangerous. It's just dangerous. One more. Over time, we might experience burnout from pursuing results we simply can't control. You work harder. You give more energy. You do more stuff. You study more books. You pray harder. You have a buildup of pressure. You equate it to identity and value. And over time, those things can deplete you of spiritual resources because you are pursuing something you cannot control. And that, my friends, is exhausting. God never intended for us to pursue things that we cannot control. Reverend Smith, good evening to you, my brother. Good evening to you. Thanks for joining in. So, results are good. Wanting people to feel validated and accepted, cared for and understood, encouraged and hopeful, emotionally connected, letting them know they're not alone, experiencing the love of God. All of those are excellent desired results, but they are out of our control. And when we focus on those, we typically end up doing more harm than good. That's the case. Working the process as opposed to focusing on results is actually what's most helpful to lead to results, is to not focus on the results that you want. Is actually one of the most helpful things you can do to get the results, is to not focus on them. Isn't that interesting? It seems like it shouldn't be the case. Like, if you want results, you should focus on results, but that's not the case. If you want the positive results of empathy, don't focus on the results of empathy. Why? Because they're out of your control. So here's what the author says: if positive results are beyond our direct control, how do we achieve them? The best way is to focus on the process of empathizing, to work on forming the 2 empathy actions we introduced in chapter 2 and expanded on throughout this book. What are they? Experience and express. Just like that diagram says there in the picture, experience their feelings from their perspective and express them back to the person that you're caring for. That is the best way to create the conditions for results to happen, is to simply do our job, which is to experience their feelings from their perspective, express them back to the person. And that's the best way to achieve the positive results of empathy, is simply to focus on the process of empathy. I want to make sure that makes sense. So talk back to me, put something in the comments, give me a thumbs up, make sure that, because that's a critical point for us to understand. It's counterintuitive. And I just want to make sure we have clarity on that before I proceed further. So let me know that you're with me and that you understand that. And if so, how has that been for you to make that shift? Is that shift, is it happening? Do you find yourself getting stuck? How is that process of shifting from results to the process? How's that going for you?
I think one way of measuring that, Reverend,
Yes,
is
sir.
that if I empathize with you and whatever the circumstance happened to be at the time, then the positive feedback to me that my empathy is well placed is with the recipient acknowledging it. Otherwise, I might just be expressing my empathy in a way that's not conducive to the circumstance at hand. So I have to kind of measure my results of my empathy, which gives me another opportunity to let my experience produce whatever fruit it might under the given circumstance.
So that's a tricky response, Brother Mellon. Thank you for sharing. What I heard you say is that in that process of making the shift from results to process, one of the things that's helpful is the acknowledgement. The acknowledgement. And on one hand, I certainly can understand and appreciate that. As a matter of fact, that gets us to the next point. But on the other hand, if in fact the ultimate impact does not happen and the person doesn't feel better, then what happens to our focus on process? Does it just go away because it didn't do what we wanted it to do and they didn't acknowledge it? And they we expressed, and they said, well, that doesn't help me at all. What happens to our focus on process as opposed to results? Yes, Reverend Nelson.
Those definitely some really good remarks, and some thought-provoking. Just even listening to this portion, it reminds me um of something that is written in the Bible about Jesus, that he who begins a good work in you will see it to its completion, till it reaches full maturity. And I think as long as if we're focused on the process more than the results, we're willing to do whatever it takes to stick with the process, to see it through. So then when there is a setback, we're because we are a part of the process, we're prepared to even go through the setbacks, or if it's taking longer than what we expected, or if we don't get the right result, that the result is not driving the factor, but it's the process that is really the energy to the whole course of things. I mean, that's the whole thing about being able to be encouraging. We put courage in someone until we get to that point where they have that courage to overcome the things that we are connected to. I think that's our God-given responsibilities as saints. We see that time and time again in the New Testament, to come alongside, to encourage, to build up, to strengthen. And all that is a process.
And I would like to speak to Reverend Nelson's point, and that is that reaching that point where I must change, I can't stay in that same mode. I have to recognize when whatever method that I was trying to use at the moment is not effective or working. So I must be hopefully wise enough to keep in the process. Just move to the next genre to try to find that connection. And that's not giving up. You're just striving to find it without being a real protagonist in the person's life.
Interesting. Great comments. Great comments. Thank you all for sharing. Let me wrap up this section with an analogy that comes to mind, and that is the analogy of sports training. But let's say my goal was to be able to be 90% or better at shooting free throws in basketball. And I want to make 9 out of 10 free throws in basketball. But currently I can only make 6 out of 10 free throws in basketball. And so I talked to the coach. Coach, I need to do better. I need to help the team. I'm hurting the team. And the coach watches me shoot free throws. And the coach says, you're looking at the ball when you should be looking at the rim. And you need to change what you're looking at. You're looking at the wrong thing. I've watched you shoot free throws and you're looking at the ball when you should be looking at the rim. Now, initially, when he says try it again. And you might be looking at the ball. He says, stop that. You need to be looking at the rim. And you force yourself to look at the rim. And then the next time you do it, you kind of look at the rim and you look back at the ball again. And what do you have to do to be a better free throw shooter? I heard it. The First Lady said it. She was on mute. She said, keep practicing. You got to keep practicing until you cannot do it the wrong way. Don't shoot until you make, shoot until you can't miss. And so ultimately, this transition to focusing on results, from focusing on results to focusing on process, is a matter of knowing the right form and continuing to practice until you cannot do it another way. Regardless of whether or not the ball goes in the hoop or not. Because if you got a good coach and you got a good form, you're going to live with the results. And more times than not, you're going to make more than you miss. And so what I'm telling you is, this is good form, focusing on process and not results. And you've got to know that you've been given good instruction. You've got to change your focus. You got to keep practicing it the right way until there is no other way. And that, my friends, takes guided practice. You got to practice it perfectly until, don't shoot until you make, shoot until you can't miss. It's got to become muscle memory to the point where you can do it in your sleep and it becomes automatic. Like right now, at first, it may not be automatic. It may be awkward. And you just got to trust the process. But then, Brother Medlin, you're exactly correct. Sometimes you do it right and it goes in the hoop. You were like, yay, I made it. And that's a part of it. But it's not complete until that form, the process, becomes muscle memory. And when the process becomes muscle memory, the results will take care of themselves. And you'll make it more times than you miss. That's my analogy. I hope that analogy makes sense. You've been given the form. You've got to train your brain. You got to think about it before you do it. You need to get a piece of scratch paper and put process over results before you make the phone call. Back when we were in high school, we would write stuff on our hands, get you some notes. Think before you speak. Remember your training. And when you think first, okay, this is what I need to do. This person is talking in my mind. I know this is what I need to do. I need to listen. I need to keep my mouth shut. I need to feel what they're feeling. You can give yourself a pep talk if you have to, because you're learning something new and it's not fluid. So rely heavily on your training. Think about it before you do it and keep practicing it until you cannot do it another way. That's the journey. That's the journey. So One last thing, an important part of the process. As results happen, celebrate them. When you get the right form and you shoot the free throw and you do it the right way and the ball goes in the hoop, celebrate. When you care effectively, regardless of how they respond, celebrate your part. I did it. I empathized. And you need to celebrate the part that's in your control. Here's what the author says. When you stop thinking about results and instead focus on the process of empathy, you'll put yourself in the best position for those hoped for results to happen. When you do see the results you hope for, feel free to celebrate them. Experience the satisfaction of having made an emotional connection. Delight in how the other person feels and how the other person feels validated and affirmed. If in fact that's the case, then remember that part is in the Lord's hands. Enjoy deeper relationships as they develop. These results matter and are worth celebrating. Let's see. I almost says I agree with Reverend Nelson. The journey, it is a journey. It is a journey. Johnny says it makes sense to me. So let's celebrate. Let's celebrate. Let's celebrate. Anybody got a story of just caring regardless of how the results came out? Let's celebrate our good free throw shooting form, our good caregiving skills. And here's another tip. You got to celebrate the process. The author says, as results happen, celebrate them. I agree, you ought to celebrate the results, but they belong to God. But I'm also going to say you need to celebrate when you do the process right, regardless of the results, because the process is reproducible. So anybody got process they want to celebrate or results they want to celebrate? And, ultimately we're giving glory to God for the results.
I'll share.
Go ahead.
So this past weekend I had an opportunity to have an appointment with a new client that I had never met in person before, and we went to our studio and I just did what I would normally do. We did a facial, things like that. And then she just began to share a little bit of her personal life with me. I usually ask questions when they're new, what do you do for a living? Tell me about yourself, your family, that kind of thing. And she began to share things with me. And then it got personal real fast. And she shared some very intimate details about her personal life. And admittedly, a part of me on the inside wanted to give advice, with some of the problems that she was sharing, but I just kind of listened and just responded with things like, oh my goodness, that sounds so tough. Yes, I can so understand that. And, just kind of repeated back to her things that she shared. And I just listened and empathized. No advice, no, none of that. And we were all done. And she gave me a hug and said she really enjoyed our time together. And then the very next day, she sent me a message and said it meant so much to her to have someone just sit and listen.
Wow. Let's celebrate that, y'all. Woohoo.
Woo, 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 woo.
We're celebrating the process, and we celebrate the fact that in this case, the Lord allowed you to experience the results. So that's like a double celebration. We can celebrate the process and we can celebrate that God brought about the results so that you could be encouraged as well as them.
I have one as well.
Go ahead.
Um, I mean, and it's kind of even similar being in the midst or a part of the process. And it had been dealing with an individual that was going through some really deep, a really deep sense of grief and bereavement due to the death of a loved one. Um, and whenever we talked, it was, always encourage them to know that whatever you feel is okay. Is what we do with how we feel is what's going to make the biggest difference in our lives. And I walked with them through that for almost about a year. Not too long ago, we touched bases again, and that same individual was sharing some of the same things that we went through together with someone else that was entering into the bereavement season due to a loss. So even being able to see that benefit that you don't always get to see the results and how impactful and how much it helps someone else along the journey, but just to be a part of that, that for me was a celebratory moment.
Woohoo! Let's celebrate. We celebrate the process of good Christian care through empathy, and we celebrate that the Lord allowed the care receiver to be cared for and the caregiver to be able to be encouraged through their caregiving. I've got one. Oh, we got the president with us. Good evening, President Combs. Glad to have you with us on this evening. What a blessing. So I have been incorporating empathy in particular, since that's what we're talking about, into my private pastoral care sessions that I have with individuals. And so confidentiality does not allow me to share the specifics of the scenarios, but I will say that the impact that it has had encourages me to continue with the process. And sometimes in my individual pastoral care sessions that I have with people, I struggle to get some sense that I had a positive impact. That's happened recently. But there have been other times where I feel like I've done the same process and I was able to experience the Lord bringing the results that I hoped for. And the fact that he allowed me to see the results was enough to sustain me when I did the same thing, even though I didn't experience the results that I had hoped for. But I was still encouraged because I had to rest on the process. And so I'm celebrating that. Woohoo! I'm celebrating that.
Woo, 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 woo.
To stick with the process, even when you don't see the results. Because there are times when I have, and I know that I'm doing what God has called me to do as a caregiver. And that's worthy of celebration too. So exciting, 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 exciting. So if there's anyone else, you can, if you're in the chat and you're not live on the Zoom, you can type in a sentence or two, and we would love to celebrate with you as well as we celebrate the process of empathy as well as the results of empathy.
I would like to share a quick thought, Reverend.
Yes, sir.
From being the beneficiary of this process, not knowing the circumstance. Some time ago, after one of my operations, and especially on that cervical spine, I was unable to move or walk. And so the young nurse assistant would get me in the morning and take me in this, put me in like a big cattle chute to move me from one place to the other and take me to the exercise place where I was supposed to do my. About the third day, I couldn't do anything. And this particular occasion, I was in a chair in front of the parallel bars and I couldn't move. And the nurse who had been ministering to me says, "Okay, Mr. Miller, I want you to do this." I said, "I can't do it because I've tried it before." She looked at me on one of those parallel bars. She got on her knees and looked up at me and said, "Since Mr. Mellon, you can't do it, let me see if we can work something else out." And because she did what she did, I said, "Wait a minute, let me try one more time." And I stood up for the first time for about 20 seconds, which was the beginning of my recovery. And it's all because she stood, I was energized by what she did, telling me, informing me that what I had said I couldn't do. And it was just a little reverse psychology that put me through a test to demonstrate that I could. Now, you know, I'm humble and stubborn now, but that's better than standing still.
What a blessing. What a blessing. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing what it feels like to be on the receiving end of quality Christian care. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. We got another one, First Lady, in the chat. So true. I have an ongoing person that I have been trying to do better, showing empathy with. I don't necessarily feel like it has helped, but I'm proud to have continued the process regardless. Woohoo! Let's celebrate that. Let us celebrate that. Process is us. Results belong to the Lord. It's not too much different than evangelism when you think about it, because we can't control another person's decision to accept the gospel message and turn from sin and repentance and turn to Jesus Christ and faith and experience the salvation of their souls. The success in evangelism is in the sharing and leaving the results to God. So it is very similar in terms of where the responsibilities lie and successes in the process and results are unto God. But when we see the results, they are encouraging, and we do need to celebrate the results. But we need to celebrate the process separate from the results. And sometimes we can celebrate results and process. That's like the double win. And every now and then the Lord gives us the double win. So that brings us to an end of the chapter. That brings us to an end of our study on empathy, but it's just the beginning of our practice of empathy, where we experience people's feelings from their perspective and express them back to them. I am going to kind of wrap things up and let you know how grateful I am that we've taken this journey together and that we have grown. Each one of us have indicated in some way that they have grown throughout this journey in their personal life as well as in their ministry to other people and gaining a better understanding and beginning that practice. And so from here on out, guys, we need to continue to practice our skills. We need to continue to practice our skills. If anybody wants, here's the book, The Gift of Empathy, Helping Others Feel Valued, Cared For, and Understood. I have a complete set of PowerPoint notes for the whole study. And so if you would like those, drop that in the chat, in the Zoom chat, or in the Facebook chat if you want me to email you a set of the slides. And I would be happy to do so. I would be happy to do so. So just let me know. So the month of December is our month off for rest and for planning. And so the Wednesday before First Sunday is our last fast and fellowship of the year. So that means that next Wednesday would be our last normal scheduled Bible study. And then we have our fast and fellowship Wednesday after that. And then that brings us into December. However, next Wednesday is the day before Thanksgiving. And I'm going to give you all an extra week off because you've been so great and hung in so tough as we've spent months talking about empathy. And I just want to just thank you all for taking this journey together. So next week, we will not have Bible study. And then the following week, we'll have our Wednesday fast and fellowship, where we fast during the daytime and we'll engage in fellowship at the church. And that will bring us into the month of December. So no Bible study next week. Enjoy your family time the day before Thanksgiving. And then the following Wednesday, we'll convene at the church for our normal monthly fast and fellowship. And then that'll take us into the month of December, where we take a month off. The teacher is tired. The teacher is tired. The teacher is tired. The teacher needs a little break and some time to prep for the new year. We've got some exciting stuff for the new year. We will be talking about unpacking your purpose, starting the beginning of the year, going over information that is new in our new member orientation process. And I want to share it with the existing members as well, so that we all can be on the same page. And so starting in January, unpacking your purpose, some fresh material. Most of it won't be new information, but it'll be packaged in a new way that you all will be able to apply it in your lives in new and exciting ways, and be on the same page with what the new members that the Lord will bring to the Antioch Baptist Church, so that the new members and the existing members, we can all become one, we can all become unified, and we can all become on the same page. And so as they come in to the fold, they will automatically be going through this process, and that gives us opportunity to have the same understanding. And in that way, we can impact the culture of the Antioch Baptist Church in a positive way. So that's what's coming up in January. I already have the handouts, and I will begin to email those out in the month of December, so that you can have them in advance, and no great secrets. So I'll be happy to email those out in advance in the month of December. I'll also be preaching through that on Sunday mornings. And so we will be talking about the sermon series in the month of January, Becoming People of Purpose. And so that's what's coming up in the new year. And so we look forward to having a week off for Thanksgiving, and then following that, our final fast and fellowship meal the Wednesday after that. And that'll take us into our rest period in the month of December. So God's blessings be upon each and every one of you. Again, this Saturday is serving at the Open Door Mission at 10:30 a.m. And this coming Sunday is our final Good News Jail and Prison Sunday, where we invite Chaplain Klaus, get an update behind the walls, and we make our contribution to that all-important mission and ministry work. So that's our lesson. God's blessings be upon each of you, and may heaven smile upon all of you.